welcome back. I am so excited about today's video because we are about to learn a skill that I have been wanting to learn for like the past 2, maybe 3 years at this point, because I have been wanting to learn how to make shoes so bad. I found the I Can Make Shoes brand on Instagram after seeing, I think, Mimi G make shoes. Then I saw Kiana Panolo make shoes. Then I saw Jazzy Souls make shoes, all through the I Can Make Shoes brand. And I was like, oh, well, I can make shoes too, hence the name. So I've been wanting to get one of these like shoemaking kits for the longest, and my birthday just happened. And so I told my boyfriend I really want this for my birthday, but they sold out. And I was like, okay, you know, it's all right. He got them for me still. This is what we got. We got the I Can Make Shoes ballet pump kit. It is like the level 1 of the easiest ones. And what I really like about I Can Make Shoes is that they show you how to make it with a regular sewing machine and not a shoe sewing machine. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm gonna take you through everything that they give you. So first that we get in the kit is our shoe soles. So these are the soles of the shoe that you'll be walking on, or I'll be walking on. They also sell them separately, but this comes in the kit. It's one of the ones where you glue on the soles and not a sew-on sole. Then we also got our insoles to go into the shoes. Then after that, they gave us the Leathercraft cement. This is what you use for putting leather materials together. So this will help when I'm putting the shoe together as the glue. They also gave us this multi-purpose impact instant contact adhesive. This is what we're gonna use for actually connecting the leather to the soles. Then we got our shoe counters. These go into the back of the shoe around the heel. So this is what stabilizes the shoe. I would compare it to like buckram or a super stiff interfacing for clothing that makes sure everything is stiff. It's like plastic. Then we have our toe puffs. These are basically the same things as the shoe counters, but they go in the front where the toe box is. So this keeps the toe stiff, and it is also heat activated with a heat gun. So I'm so excited. We have our leathers. So I think this is like a really nice, very thin leather. And it's kind of like stretchy and malleable. And it's a very soft leather. This is what I'm using for the outside of my shoe. And then they also give you the leather for the inside of the shoe. So this is going into our insole sock. And this is also our lining. So this one is also a really nice, thin, stretchy leather that feels really good and it's not too stiff. Then we have our patterns. This is like, it looks so bad because I've already opened it up, but they give you this paper that goes over all the steps. And they give you, this is what the pattern looks like when it's all put together. But it comes in 2 pieces. That's already your size because you choose your size when you buy the kit. So they give us the pattern that I'll put together to actually make it. And then lastly, what I am most excited about, because this is what I've been wanting, is the shoe last. Oh my gosh. I've been wanting a shoe last. I would like compare a shoe last to a dress form. Like this is where you can do anything. You're not just gonna make ballet pumps. You can use this same flat shoe last to make sneakers, loafers, boots, anything that doesn't have a heel on it. You can use these to pattern and make it. Let's go ahead and get started on making these shoes. All right, we started off this project really strong by cutting out all of our pattern pieces. As you can see, it comes with the toe box and the heel of the shoe. You'll connect the hearts together on both sides and then tape it down. You'll use the same pattern for the right and left side, as well as for both fabrics. Mine are red and tan for the outside and the lining. I started actually tracing out my pattern pieces for the right and left side. To be able to get each side, you have to flip your piece and then trace it again. This ensures that you have a right and left side for your shoes. Finally, I just cut out the pattern piece. I used my fabric scissors, but you can also use an X-Acto knife, a box cutter, honestly, whatever you have to cut the leather. Okay, I just finished tracing the pattern and cutting out the uppers for the left and right shoe and the lining for the left and right shoe as well. So these are all these pieces. Now we're gonna start sewing them together as well as like gluing stuff down. I started off by marking my 5mm mark at the heel of both of the lining and the outside of the shoe, and then added some glue at that 5mm mark, and then pressed both sides together to make sure that everything was nice and together before I started sewing it down. I also added the leather glue all around the top line of my outside fabric, which is this red leather, and then I went in and started folding down the top line. I wanted it to be really crisp and clean and not just be exposed leather. I also added in some snips around the toe box because it was curved to make sure that I got everything nice and lined up. Then I put the leather glue around the top line again and attached the lining to the outside of the fabric. Okay, I just finished sewing the uppers and the linings together for both shoes. So it's coming together. It's looking more like a little shoe. This edge will be cut off, but sewing around this evenly was so hard. There's glue everywhere. I don't know, I have like little mistakes in the leather, if you can see like a little mistake while I was sewing. So I don't like that, and it's like I got a little too close on this side, but they're still looking cute, they're still looking good. We're gonna move on to the next step before we start putting these on the last and they start looking like shoes. I'm at the step where I'm supposed to start lasting my shoe, but I don't think like this pattern is for my shoe size because it's not fitting together. Okay, it's on, right? The back is on, yada yada. When you look from this side, there's supposed to be mad excess for you to be able to fold over. There's like no excess for me to do that. And when I start like pulling it, because you do the lining first, when I start pulling the lining really hard, the leather just starts warping. Okay, I've come to the conclusion that I don't think that they gave me the right size for my pattern because it's just off. There's no allowance. Everything is just kind of wrong, and I don't have any space to actually pull it over to make everything correctly. So I'm gonna make my own pattern and start over, which sounds crazy because this is my first time doing this, but it is day 2 and attempt number 2 of making these shoes. And I made the mistake of going to the fabric store before I had like a solid plan in mind to look at fabrics. I'm gonna show you guys like my inspo. My mind is in 2 different places right now. I really like these ALIA flats where it has more of the almond toe shape and it's higher up. They have the different ones where they have like beads or eyelets or like some type of mesh mixed with the leather. And I really like those, especially these red pair. They're so cute. But also, I really like ballet shoes that look like ballet shoes. They look like they could be point shoes or ballet shoes that you would wear in dance class. I especially like these Miu Miu ones with the extra straps. So my mind is in 2 different places and I'm torn between the 2. I just need to start making the pattern. And make the pattern we did, child. So I started off by taping off the entire last for just one of the shoes. I taped everything from the front to the back, including the vamp, almost all the way up to the ankle, and then I started sketching out how I wanted my shoe to look. When I was looking online, a lot of people use this same method to be able to mark out the shoe, so I was like, it might as well work. It felt like draping on a dress form to me, so I was down. After I did that, I also sketched out the bottom of the shoe so I knew where my pattern would start and stop, as well as where I would add my seam allowance. So I cut out the back of the tape and removed it from the last so I could get the actual pattern pieces from it. And I was working so hard trying to make sure this tape didn't rip, but it all came together. After cutting out where my lines were, so I just had my pattern pieces, I taped it down to scrap paper and I started cutting out the other things that I didn't have, as well as actually putting my pattern together and adding seam allowance, which you can't see because I forgot to record it. But I tried it on my shoe and I was pretty happy, so we're on to the next step. I just finished my pattern. It looks really good so far. So next thing is tomorrow we're gonna go to the fabric store. Okay, we're back. I went to 2 different fabric stores this time. One like specialized in leather, and then I just went to my regular one. So I finally got some leather that I like. They had so many options that were different colors, and I was like, do I want a funky shoe? But at the end of the day, I want something that I'll gravitate toward and wear more often. So I got this brown punctured leather. It's also a thin leather. I also got some teeny tiny little buckles. And I also got some like tiny eyelets for the holes for these. So I'll put little eyelets in the straps and they'll cross over. All right, so we are back. I started off by again tracing out my pattern in both of my leathers for the lining and for the outside. So getting both of those done and putting in the notches. And as you can see, we are doing the same thing for the lining. Basically what we did earlier, just a second time around to get this shoe the correct way that I wanted it to be this time. And when we're done, we have 4 pieces, 2 for the lining and 2 for the outsole for the right and left side. Then we're adding glue to the back seams and sandwiching those together to be able to sew them down. This just holds since you can't put needles in leather without it puncturing. So then we're also gonna open up that back seam and glue it down so that it's really, really flat and lays on itself. Now we are starting to make a shoe, okay? Now we're really getting to it. So we're gonna put the 2 layers together, clipping them all the way around. Again, we can't use needles or it'll puncture the leather, but making sure that we have clipped everything down, and we're gonna sew along that line at whatever your allowance is. I put mine on the 1/4 of an inch so it'll be easier to sew and just put it right up against my sewing foot. We're also adding notches into all the curvy bits and adding glue right over that top line and folding down the top line of the lining first. Then we're gonna do this same step for the outsole. So again, we are adding all the glue around the top line and then folding down that outsole really nice and clean because it'll help us having a beautiful top line rather than the one that I had done originally. This will make sure everything is really clean and all the seams are inside. We're also gonna open up the 2 layers because this is just a little extra security, a little extra cuteness. We're gonna add all of the glue around the entire shoe, but just on our outsole leather. So we're gonna do it right over that top line, fold it down, and then we're gonna squish those 2 layers together so the glue can really seep into each other and it can stick. I also use the butt of a hammer to like really get it down so it'll be nice and smooth. And just look at that top line. It looks so professional, like a real shoe. Come on. So now we're moving on to actually building our insole. So I used cork. I didn't have any foam because again, this is my first time, but if you do this, I would definitely suggest using foam. But I took the cork, I outlined my 2 insole patterns and then added glue to both sides, sticking them together, and I did this process twice. I did the same process with the actual lining of the insole. So I used my red fabric for this. Again, I used the glue, put it on the lining layer and putting on my cork and insole layer, sticking them both down to make sure that they were stuck really, really well together and were not moving. After that, I started adding seam allowance to all of it because we're gonna cut these insoles out and last them onto the bottom of that insole. Again, just going through adding snips at all the curves and adding glue around that seam allowance and around that lasting allowance, as well as to the insole. And as you can see, we are started lasting and we're folding everything down, making little pleats until the whole thing is done. I also use a safety beveler or a leather skiver, or you can go in with like a craft knife and cut off all the excess, because if not, you'll feel it on your foot while you're walking. Now we are making a shoe, honey. I thought I said it before, but this is when we really started. So I'm taping on my insole to the front and back of my shoe to make sure that everything is on. And then I started lasting just the lining layer first. Pulling that down, making sure everything is tight, adding little pleats, but making sure that those pleats don't show on the top of the shoe, because if they do, it'll just look really bulky and you'll see all the fold lines. And that's not what you want. That's not what you usually see when you have your own shoes on. We're also doing this to the back, all over the shoe until the full thing is lasted. We moved on to the toe puffs. I used a heat gun, but I heard you can also use a hair dryer. It just takes longer. But those toe puffs are made of TPU, which is plastic, so we had to heat them up for both the toe puff and the heel counter and add them onto the shoe, folding them over in the same way as I did while doing the others. And then I just took a craft knife, as you can see, and cut off all of the excess. And then we were on to like kind of the final bit where we lasted the outer layer onto the shoe last. So everything is coming together at this point. Long time no see. I just finished lasting the first of my 2 shoes and it's coming together. The only con so far is that when I was lasting the lining layer, it pulled the shoe down because the tape that I got, this tape that I have, this Scotch tape, is trash and it doesn't hold anything in place. So my shoe, the back of the shoe is supposed to be at this line right here, but it slipped down as I was lasting, which is why I have so much at the heel. So that's a little annoying, but I think I just tried it on. It doesn't feel like odd, so I think it's okay. And once I add the soles and the straps, hopefully that'll give it like a little bit more height and it won't feel like it's so far down my heel. But so far, it's looking good. My friends, yet again, I have fumbled for you guys. I just finished putting on the straps and everything of the shoes off camera because my camera died. I know, I'm sorry. This is the second time and this is only my second video. I'm so sorry. But we've made great progress. I've made the straps. The straps are on. I've punched the holes and everything. I'm gonna put little eyelets in the holes. That said, everything is finished and it can go on the sole. Now we are in the home stretch. So I added my eyelets to all the holes that I punched using a hole maker for leather fabric, as well as my eyelet puncher. Then we were finally adding the soles to our shoes. We added glue to both the sole and the bottom of the shoe and squished them together. And now it is time for the reveal.
We pulling strings like maestros, walk tight roads with both eyes closed. Big bully on the mic, bro.